Sometimes when working on a review, I come to a point where it's really hard to describe exactly what I just played. And that's the case here with the new game Everything on the PS4. But is this game truly everything a game should be, or is it really nothing at all? Everything is a game that's, well, truly about everything. Everything that exists, as well as really truly nothing. There's not a whole lot of story progression, and this is the kind of game that is much more of an interactive experience than it is necessarily a game. In the game, you take control of some sort of object or organism, plant life, animal life, even full land masses, planets, galaxies, and then all the way down to the molecule level and individual atoms and the like. Basically, you just move around and interact with other objects. You can talk to some of them, even things like random inanimate objects or other animals, plant life, sometimes have things to say and talk about. There's a lot of questions about life in general that are posed during the course of the game. But as far as the core gameplay goes and progression of story, it's basically just doing whatever you feel like. The way it works is you control a certain organism and start to kind of get the gist of just moving around, and the game has these story icons basically that appear. You go to them and interact with them, and they give you a bit of story as well as they're teaching you what you're able to do in the game. Most of the story in the game or gameplay revolves around just learning what you're able to do, and what you decide to do with that is really up to you. There's a lot of times where you want to get to the next story point or figure out what the next tutorial is. You just have to kind of wait and see what happens. The game actually can play itself, and you can even customize how it plays itself, like deciding what of the random things it can do happen so frequently or less frequently or not at all. You can turn off autoplay altogether as well so that everything that happens is deliberate from you. Basically, when you're controlling some sort of organism, you can move around, you can join up with other similar organisms, like a big herd of animals, and move along with them. With certain types of animals, you can even, quote, dance, which is basically kind of a friendship and eventually mating thing, and create more of that particular animal, or tree, or plant, or whatever it is you're currently controlling. After you get a feeling for that animal or whatever, you have the ability to ascend or descend. Basically either transferring to another of a similar type or growing to something bigger or smaller. For example, going from an animal to a giant tree, to a landmass, to the planets, to the stars, and to whole galaxies that you're able to actually move. Once you ascend to a certain level, you loop back over and go back down to the smallest level. And then you can go from the smallest back to the largest, or work your way up from the small molecule moving around. And it's similar in some regards to like the way Spore handled you evolving, but there's no evolution process. You're just growing to bigger and bigger organisms. While you're progressing the story and getting more tutorials until eventually you learn everything that you're able to do in the game, you'll also be finding these different sound clips. Basically, it's like a scientist or teacher giving a lecture on different life concepts, the meaning of life, and all kinds of interesting questions that are posed through it. And if you want to get into it, it's something that will probably end up making you think a little bit about just the existence of, well, everything. There is a lot here. There's a lot of animals. There's a lot of different land masses, different types of trees, and it actually keeps track of which ones you've been before. You can work on becoming every single possible object in the entire game over the course of playing it. There's even a new game plus once you finish everything up, and you can start the game kind of over again and have more freedom with all the abilities and stuff right from the very get-go if you want to do that. And that's basically it. Everything is a lot of things, and at the same time, nothing. It's really up to you to decide how you want to take this game, how you want to play it. If you want to do a lot of exploration, if you want to try to become every possible creature and object in the game, if you want to just collect the different sound clips, or if you just want to let the game play itself, just set the AI the way you want it, sit the controller down, and let it go. In fact, that's what it's doing right now as I review the game. It's an interesting thing, that is for sure, but whether or not it's going to be for you or whether or not you're going to be able to get enjoyment, it's going to be up to each individual. From the technical side of things, the game didn't crash on me, but there was some frame rate and slowdown from time to time when there was a lot going on. The game also is kind of just weird in the way that it's done, where animals don't like have normal walk cycles. In fact, they just kind of roll or cartwheel their way from area to area, which is a bit jarring and also pretty funny. Everything is available now on the PlayStation 4 for $14.99. It features a full trophy list, including a platinum. And once people figure out exactly what ends up unlocking the trophies, as the descriptions are a bit cryptic and the game's still relatively new, I think it's going to be a pretty easy platinum once we do kind of figure things out, as there's no way to lose the game or miss anything. Overall, everything is one of the toughest games I've ever reviewed because it's really hard to review. Talking about its gameplay and just everyone else who plays it is going to have a different experience than I had with it. As a consumer, you just have to decide if this looks really interesting, you think you could have fun with it, you may want to check it out. There's some relaxing moments for sure, there's some calming music and the like, and I think some people will really dig what this game's concept is. But for many out there, you're not going to understand it, or it's going to be very difficult to even figure out what its purpose is. So with that said, I'm not going to give everything a score. I'm not going to give it a number rating. You just have to decide for yourself whether or not this is something that's going to be worth tackling, though the price tag is a little bit more expensive than I would like for it. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.